making paper out of military uniforms. On the surface, that's what combat paper workshops are all about. Drew Cameron, an Army veteran who served in Iraq, was invited to Indianapolis by Herron School of Art and Design's Art Therapy program. He co-founded Combat Paper.
It came about because I was studying this ancient craft of hand paper making, and I was working with communities of veterans, doing creative work, specifically in creative writing. And I was working with another artist who was doing a lot of public interaction with paper making. So it was a melding of a lot of different things all at once, of activism, craft, public performance, and interaction. Combat paper in its simplest form is just about workshops in paper where veterans in the community come together. We were all engaged in every step of the process, so beginning with taking the clothing material and deconstructing it, removing the non-fiber, the buttons, the zippers, the Velcro, taking it apart and breaking it down in small pieces, and using those bits of material and beating it into a pulp with the Hollander, and then taking that pulp and rendering it into handmade sheets of paper. A lot of folks have a really keen reverence for the uniform, and that's why they hang on to it. We can think of the great distance that our clothing has traveled over the years that we've worn it. So the military uniform immediately has thousands of miles encoded into it, just in the places that it's traveled, when it was issued to the person, when they wore it, where they trained in it, how many times they took a nap in it, then how many flights and truck rides and missions and all of these things and the places it's been and back again.
The gathering of veterans and non-veterans working side by side on a creative project is a natural setting for conversation.
The premise is this method of exchange. Paper making is the conduit. It's one way to access the story that is militarism in this country, or militarism in society, or the military experience, or the wartime experience, or the aftermath of the military experience.
Robert Wessel is a student at Herron School of Art and Design and is a veteran of the Air Force.
I'm actually right next to a veteran right now, an Air Force veteran, so we've just been kind of swapping our experiences. Turns out we were only stationed a couple of miles from each other in England. She was at one base, RAF Lakenheath, and I was at Mildenhall. So we've just been kind of swapping stories about what it was like. And I've met people here who had family members that served, and they just wanted to come out and kind of commemorate them, which I think is wonderful. I was an Arabic linguist when I was an enlisted guy, and then crossed over to the officer world, and I was a missileer, which means I sat in an ICBM silo and stateside, middle of the country, and looked over nuclear missiles. I wore this for both of my jobs, both as a linguist and as a missileer. It's a big bag, like a onesie pajama, and that's what I brought with me. It's my last one, actually. I think this is the last uniform I actually own, so it's going to be paper pretty soon. I've got some ideas of what I want to do. I think I'd like to do something to commemorate those folks who sit in missile silos every day and that people don't really think about. So I've got a design in mind, just in general, something to let those guys out there sitting in missile silos know that there's someone else up here thinking about them.
Shauna Reese served 12 years with the Indiana Army National Guard and had tours in both Afghanistan and Iraq. She is now a senior at Herron.
I'm a sculpture major. I like building things with my hands. It's really interesting and I like it a lot. That's one of the things why I like this workshop, the Combat Paper, is you sit there and you deconstruct the uniforms and you can sit there and build something new with it.
This is the second Combat Paper workshop for Reese. Last year, she used paper she made as the cover for a journal.
I'm planning for this workshop to just pull blank sheets of paper and actually use the paper itself as the pages of the book. I write poems as well, and so I'm looking to printing a book of poems using that paper.
7 years into the project, Drew Cameron says he learns something new all the time.
I've been really fortunate in that I've basically been invited to be in these very personal spaces. A A lot of the military experience and the stories we have a tradition of keeping it to ourselves, and for whatever reason, papermaking lends itself to folks wanting to talk about it. And so I've been given this gift to be able to essentially put my ear to the ground and listen to an entire generation's worth of war stories.